We welcome in Jeff Jackson, head coach of the Big Ten's newest hockey member, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Jeff, before we get into your joining the Big Ten, let's look back on last year. You lead this program to a third Frozen Four in the past decade. Only two other schools in the nation have been able to replicate that. What was the best part of the run from last season?
I think, for the most part, we had a young group, and I thought that, they really elevated their play in the second half of the season. We had a real good young defensive core that really came into their own. We had a great goaltender in Cal Peterson, obviously, too. But in the second half, I think those young defensemen figured out a lot and certainly made it a lot easier for us as far as, not giving odd man rushes, not giving up goals at the net front. So I think that improved our game. And we certainly had a lot of contributions from people, but Anders Bjork certainly made a big difference as far as those games where the game's on the line and scoring the big goal at the most important moment of the game.
He was one of the most exciting players to watch in all of college hockey. With Anders moving on, with Cal moving on, it's become a necessary evil that you often have to replace the most talented players when they go to their pro careers a year early. How comfortable do you feel with picking up the slack? Let's start at the forward position because you have a ton of talent returning. It's just Anders is not part of that group.
Well, we have to hope that, we have a number of players that elevate their game to compensate for, Anders' 50 points. I think that, certainly some guys had breakout years, guys like Andrew Ogilvie, but we need guys to do the same thing this coming year. I think that guys like Cam Morrison certainly can have a bigger impact. Dylan Malmquist, Cal Burke, I think they all can have a bigger impact. And obviously, you hope that a few of the young guys, the freshmen, certainly can make an impact as well.
With Cal Peterson gone, can you give us an assessment of your goaltender situation as it stands right now?
Well, I'm not sure that we're going to start the year with a guy, an iron horse in goal. I think that Cale Morris certainly improved last year, even though he didn't play. I spent a lot of time with him one-on-one, and I thought that he made good improvements over the second half of the year. In some scrimmage situations during bye weeks, I thought he really looked good. So far this year, I think that he's shown that as a sophomore, I think he's going to be ready to step in and contribute right away. But we have a real talented young freshman in Dylan St. Cyr that, I think that has a chance to compete for the starting position as well.
How good do you think your blue line core can be? If I'm not mistaken, your top 7 defensemen return. You add a very highly touted freshman in Matt Hellickson to that group as well. Is it fair to say that will be the strength of this hockey team?
Yeah, I think that without question, our defensive core will be as good as maybe as I've had here. Just with balance, we have some really top end guys that are good defenders. We're bringing Justin Wade back from 2 years ago as well. So we start the season right now with 9 defensemen, and I would think that any of the 9 potentially could play, and it's just going to be a matter of maybe who the opponent is or if it's home or away. I think that if we need to have more grit in the lineup, guys like Wade and Dennis Gilbert certainly can make a big difference, and then guys that can really move and skate well. Certainly Jordan Gross, Andrew Peak, and now Hellickson, I think, all fit in that role too. So we have a good balance of guys that have offensive characteristics and a good balance of guys that are a little more gritty.
You bring up the name Jordan Gross. I believe he is the top returning scorer career point-wise in all of college hockey at this point. To have a guy with that experience and that ability both offensively and defensively as a defenseman does what for your hockey team?
Well, he's the anchor back there from an offensive perspective. But last year, I think he gave up, and to help the team, I think he gave up some offense to try to improve his defensive game. And he made a serious effort to improve his defensive game, and I thought that it certainly made a big impact on our team. And I think it helped him, too, as far as his future. It'd be nice this year if he gets that offensive flair back and still be able to maintain the defensive side of the game to where he's more of a guy that can contribute not just on the power play or on transition offensively, but also on the defensive side of the puck and penalty kill.
Jeff, you've made transitions from one conference to another in the past. The first time I talked with you was back, I think, in 2008 or 9 at CCHA Media Day in Grand Rapids. Seems like a long time ago. Now that the program is part of the Big Ten, what do you think this conference can provide for Notre Dame? And in turn, what does Notre Dame provide for the Big Ten?
Well, you know, I think that had it been available a few years back with affiliate memberships, I think that that would have been the natural fit for us right out of the transition from the CCHA. But Hockey East was a great home for the last 4 years, great conference with a lot of competition. And, you know, now we're moving back into a conference that, you know, there's a little bit more familiarity with some of the programs that we've played in the CCHA. And also, you know, I think that for, you know, our players, for our fans, you know, certainly bringing in Big Ten schools and the name recognition of those schools and a lot of hockey tradition at the Big Ten schools that, you know, I think it'll be good for our program. And hopefully, you know, our program's been probably one of the top 10 programs in the country over the last several years. And, you know, hopefully we help elevate the Big Ten as well. I fully expect, you know, the Big Ten to be the elite or the premier conference in the country as time goes on. I think that the first couple of years it got its footing, and now I think you're starting to see a lot of the programs, especially the traditionally strong programs, to elevate and get back to where Michigan State was. Certainly Wisconsin. Minnesota's always been one of the elite programs in the country. So you have to give a lot of credit to the young coaches. You know, Guy Godowski's done a great job at Penn State of elevating that program in a short period of time. And the same thing at Ohio State. You know, I think that in time, I think you'll see with the name recognition and the crowd sizes and the buildings, I think the Big Ten certainly is going to be a great home for us, and it'll be you know, it'll be an interesting transition as it was with Hockey East, but over time I think it'll suit us probably better than any other conference could.
Jeff, let's transition to the academic side. Notre Dame is obviously a very rigorous academic institution, even for those students who are not student athletes as well. What does the program provide to make sure that the student athletes who have responsibilities both in and out of the classroom are able to succeed when they're off the ice?
This school gets small. I mean, it's only 7,000, 8,000 students, and it really allows for a lot more hands-on for the professors and the student athletes as far as getting you know, help from the professors themselves or getting help from tutors, and being in smaller class sizes certainly helps. And you know, our freshmen room with regular students, so they may actually get help from their own roommates. And I think all of those things, you know, we certainly have a great academic staff, our academic advisor in the Coleman Morse Center, which, you know, certainly is a resource for our student athletes to get tutoring or get additional help. They do a great job, and you know, I think that we've tried to take the approach where we don't miss much in class time. We usually practice at home on Thursdays, and then, you know, usually fly out on Thursday afternoons after practice, and which really allows us basically to only miss like 3, maybe 4 days each semester, and that way our guys can make sure that they take care of their schoolwork. And you know, we've had pretty good success with our guys academically. It is a challenging environment academically, but in my opinion, that only makes them better for hockey because they're accustomed being surrounded by, you know, elite performers in the classroom and hopefully on the ice.
Lastly, Jeff, how much are the guys that were on last year's team looking forward to that October 13th, 14th weekend series against Denver?
You know, that's a good question. You know, I haven't really talked about it. You know, I think that when it comes up, I'm sure it'll be, you know, I'm sure our guys will certainly want to show better than they did in the last game against Denver. That game was a little of a fluke, in my opinion, very similar to the 2 weeks earlier when we lost to UMass Lowell at Boston Garden. The following week, we went on to beat them in the NCAA Regionals. So our team, I think, was a little intimidated by the environment. This group had never been to the Frozen Four or that kind of an environment before, and I think that Denver's experience in that way, plus the fact they were a tremendous team, certainly played into it. And you know, I'm sure our guys will, you know, they'll probably look forward to having a chance to redeem themselves in that series.
Jeff Jackson, head hockey coach at Notre Dame. Jeff, truly appreciate the time. We will enjoy having you in the Big Ten. Best of luck to you and your team this season.
Thanks. We're looking forward to it.